If you work in Portland, but you're thinking about buying your first home, I need to tell you something that could save you thousands of dollars every single year. There's a bridge, the I-5 bridge connecting Oregon and Washington. And on one side of that bridge, you pay state income tax. On the other side, you don't. For someone making $80,000 a year, that difference is worth about $7,000 annually. Over a 30-year mortgage, that's over $200,000. I'm Dustin Hutley with Envoy Mortgage, based right here in Vancouver, Washington. And today, I'm going to give you the real unfiltered breakdown of Vancouver versus Portland for first-time homebuyers. The taxes, the home prices, the neighborhoods, and the honest truth about which side of the river makes more sense for your situation. Because here's the thing, there's no one-size-fits-all answer, but by the end of this video, you're going to know exactly what factors matter for you. Let's start with the big one, taxes, because this is where most of the confusion lives, and it's also where the biggest financial difference is. First, let's talk about Oregon. Oregon has a state income tax that ranges from 4.75% to 9.9% depending on your income. For most working professionals, let's say you're making $70,000 to $100,000. You're looking at an effective state income tax rate of around 8 to 9%. On the flip side, Oregon has no sales tax. So everything you buy, groceries, clothes, electronics, you pay the sticker price. That's really nice. So like for us, for me and my family, if it's a bigger ticket item, instead of just going 5 minutes down the road to the next whatever store it is, we'll drive the extra 20 to 30 minutes to go to Oregon. And like one example is we needed a riding lawnmower for our property. I could have purchased that lawnmower here on the Washington side, and I would have paid a significant amount more just due to the state tax based upon that particular purchase. And so we just went to the Oregon border. They had the same lawnmowers in the same Home Depot and saved all that money. Now, Washington. Washington has no state income tax, zero. So every dollar you earn, the state doesn't touch. But we do have sales tax. In Clark County, it's about 8.4% on most purchases. So which is better? Let's do the actual math. Take someone making $85,000 a year, pretty common for a professional working in Portland. They live in Oregon, they're paying roughly $6,800 to $7,200 in state income tax annually. I'm a little biased when it comes to the state of Washington, and here's why. The tricky thing about being on this border between Oregon and Washington is these three things. So if you live in Oregon and work in Oregon, of course you pay state tax for income in Oregon. If you live in Oregon but work in Washington, you still pay state tax in Oregon. Crazy, right? If you live in Washington but work in Oregon, you still pay state income tax in Oregon. So just keep that in mind. That's why I'm a little biased toward Washington, because you have to live in Washington and work in Washington to avoid paying state income tax. So clearly taxes favor Washington. But what about home prices? Let's look at what you can actually afford on each side. Right now, here in Clark County, Vancouver and surrounding areas, the median home price is around $505,000. For a first-time home buyer looking at starter homes, you're probably looking at the $400,000 to $475,000 range for something that's move-in ready. In Portland proper, the median is higher, around $525,000 to $550,000, depending on the neighborhood. In Portland's entry-level market is tighter. You might be looking at $475,000 to $525,000 for comparable homes. So Vancouver gives you a bit more house for your money, maybe $25,000 to $50,000 difference for similar properties. That's not huge, but it's not nothing either. But here's where it gets interesting for first-time home buyers specifically. Here's what you need to know, that the state of Washington has down payment assistance programs that allow you to receive thousands of dollars to help you with down payment and sometimes closing costs. Now, Oregon also has programs that are very similar that contribute thousands of dollars for down payment and possibly for closing costs as well. So you'll want to see what's possible for you depending on the state that you need to purchase in. So for a first-time home buyer specifically, buying in the state of Washington could mean significantly more help with your down payment and closing costs. Now that's a game changer for people who have been saving and saving but can't quite get over the down payment mountain. Now buying a home isn't just about money, it's about where you actually want to live. So let's talk lifestyle here. If you work in downtown Portland, living in Vancouver means crossing the bridge every day. Now I don't want to sugarcoat this, but going across the I-5 bridge and doing the commute during rush hour is no joke. Sometimes it can be a 45-minute to an hour drive if there's an accident. That said, a lot has changed in the last few years. Remote work is way more common now. If you're hybrid, maybe going to Portland 2 or 3 days a week, the commute becomes much more manageable. And if you're fully remote or work in Vancouver, it's a non-issue. My honest take is if you're commuting to Portland 5 days a week, you need to really weigh whether the tax savings are worth the time and traffic. For some people, yes. For others, the Portland side might make more sense for quality of life. Portland has that urban, walkable, eclectic energy, great food scene, arts, nightlife. If you want to be in the middle of that culture, Portland delivers for you. Vancouver is more suburban, more family family oriented. You're getting more space, bigger yards, quieter neighborhoods. Downtown Vancouver has developed a lot. There's actually a pretty solid restaurant and brewery scene, but it's not Portland. The way I think about it is Portland is for people who want to be in the action. Vancouver is for people who want easy access to the action, but prefer to come home to something calmer. If you have kids or you're planning to, school ratings matter. Clark County has some really solid school districts. Camas, Ridgefield, and Evergreen are well regarded. Portland has great schools too, but they're more neighborhood dependent. And really, a lot of young families are making the move to Vancouver specifically because they can get a bigger home with a yard in a good school district for less than they'd pay in Portland. All right, let me give you some insider stuff that doesn't always make it into the Vancouver versus Portland articles online. Hidden factor number 1, property tax differences. Washington's property taxes are slightly higher than Oregon, about 1% versus 0.9%. On a $450,000 home, that's maybe $400 to $500 more per year. Not nothing, but nowhere near enough to offset the income tax savings. Hidden factor number 2, the shopping hack. Here's what a lot of Vancouver residents do. They live in Washington for the income advantage, but they do their big shopping in Portland to avoid sales tax, just like my new lawnmower. It's technically legal as long as you're physically buying it in Oregon. So you can actually get both advantages if you're strategic about it. Hidden factor number 3, the equity race. Both markets have appreciated really well, but Clark County has seen really strong growth over the past 5 years. A lot of Portland workers discovered Vancouver during COVID when remote work became normal, and that's driven up demand. The median home in Vancouver has gone from around $380,000 5 years ago to over $500,000 today. That is fantastic appreciation for homeowners who got in early. Hidden factor number 4, future infrastructure. There's been talk for years about replacing or upgrading the I-5 bridge. If and when that happens, it could significantly improve the commute situation. And there's been discussion about extending light rail into Vancouver, which would be a game changer for commuters. Now, these aren't guarantees, but they're factors to consider if you're thinking long-term. Okay, let me give you a simple framework for making this decision. Ask yourself questions. Question number 1, what's your income? The higher your income, the more the Washington tax advantage matters. If you're making under $50,000, the difference is modest. If you're making $100,000 or more, you could be saving $8,000 to $10,000 plus per year living in Washington. Question number 2, what's your commute situation? If you work remotely or in Vancouver, Washington is a no-brainer. If you're commuting to Portland 5 days a week, you need to honestly assess whether you're okay with bridge traffic. Question number 3, what lifestyle do you want? Do you want urban energy and walkability? Portland might be your answer. Do you want more space, a yard, and a quieter neighborhood? Vancouver is probably better suited. Question number 4, how much do you need help with down payment? If down payment is your biggest barrier, Clark County's assistance program could be the deciding factor, and Oregon's is amazing as well. Here's my honest take after helping hundreds of first-time home buyers in this area. For most Portland workers who are buying their first home, Vancouver makes a lot of financial sense. The tax savings are real, the down payment assistance is substantial, and the lifestyle has improved dramatically over the past decade. But it's not right for everyone. If urban Portland is where your heart is, that matters too. Your home isn't just an investment, it's where you live your life. If you're seriously considering buying on either side of the river, let's talk through your specific numbers, your income, your work situation, your lifestyle, your priorities. Click the link in the description to set up a quick intro call with me or my team, and I'll show you exactly what you could afford on both sides, including what down payment assistance you might qualify for in the state of Washington or the state of Oregon. I'm licensed in both Washington and Oregon, so I can help you no matter which side you choose. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you found that this video was helpful, and share it with someone you feel would benefit from this info. I put out videos every week with local market insights and first-time homebuyer education about buying in Southwest Washington and the Portland metro area. We will see you next time.